Hey everybody, Martin Hevesy back here with another episode of Cellular and Wireless Unmasked. Today I wanted to talk to you about coverage and how it differs from capacity. Two very important things in cellular wireless, and I want to talk to you about how they play off each other, why they're important, and really how capacity is the name of the game in today's networks. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's start with coverage. When wireless networks came about, most of the cell sites, of your transmitters, your transceivers, were placed at the top of mountains, on the top of buildings, because the more height means the greater coverage area you would get from that cell site, more bang for the buck. You would cover more users. So when you build out a network brand new, you're focused on coverage. You want to take a given geographical area and cover as much of it as possible with your signal. Coverage. You're just trying to get more bars in more places. It's essential to reach your users, and it's essential to launch a network with coverage. Early wireless networks were all focused on just voice, just making calls. You would literally get assigned a specific frequency, a channel as your link to the cell site to make your call. Capacity wasn't really a thing at the time. There weren't a whole lot of users. Coverage was king. You wanted to cover all the areas, and really you could just take a handful of mountaintops, big giant towers, big giant buildings downtown, and just blast high output, cover a lot of area. There's your network. It worked well. That is until mobile phones became a thing, and that's when capacity started to become an issue. Let's talk about that. Okay, so capacity, the ability to process many users, many data sessions, and why is capacity so important today? In the earlier days of mobile telephony, you had a cell site and you had its coverage footprint, right? This is what the cell site covered. You had a couple of users in there. The cell phones were very expensive, you didn't have a lot of users. As the price of those phones came down and more people got mobile phones, you started to get more and more people within the coverage footprint of this cell site, right? More and more people placing a demand on that tower. Every single phone call was its own channel, its own frequency. That was early days. Then we got CDMA. Let me write that a little bit better. Code division, multiple access. And this allowed us to share channels with codes, and it made things more efficient, but more and more people. I mean, we're talking millions of new subscribers on these networks, and we were seeing real capacity problems. You know, everything that this cell site can do is finite. It can handle so many calls at once, and when it gets overloaded, you have a capacity problem. It's like a freeway. When you have a freeway between two towns and it's only one lane each way, right? It can handle a couple of cars an hour. Traffic's not too bad. Well, when you get more people, when the communities grow, if you don't grow this highway, then you get traffic. You have a capacity problem, right? So cell networks are very similar in that they have a limited amount of capacity per cell site. And when you have more users than you have capacity, you get call blocking and you get other problems. Today, the problem we see today is that the networks are data driven. Everything is data. We don't really have the traditional voice channel. CDMA is gone. GSM is gone here in the United States. Everything is either LTE, which is your 4G tech, or new radio, NR, which is your 5G tech. Everything's data. Everything is voice over LTE or voice over new radio, right? So you've got, these are how calls are handled. It's just data. It's just packets to these cell sites now. So think of the packets as your cars. too many cars, too many calls, too many data streams, YouTube, Instagram, when people are watching videos, uploading, texting, sending pictures, that's packets. That's demand on the cell site. So today, your capacity problem comes from data overload, right? So on your 4G and 5G tech, your data is what overloads sites. It's not really the call channels of the past. Now it's data sessions and people streaming at home using the cellular networks, which they can do, but they are limited. They can only handle so much. So how do you combat capacity? Well, like we talked before, you've got multiple frequencies, 700, 850, 1900, 2100. You've got 2300, 2500. Now you've got C-band, which is your 3.7 gig. There's CBRS, 3.5. You've got millimeter wave stuff. So you have all these new frequency bands, which really help to create more bandwidth, bigger highways for more people, more data. So this is one way to do it, to just add more frequencies to each of your cell towers. Now there's some techniques in system design. When you have your big mountaintop sites, quick note, most mountaintop sites today are gone. They've been decommissioned, they've been removed from the networks. Why? When you're looking for raw coverage, a quality site, you just want to cover a new area, you pick the highest point, you cover the area, it's effective. As you get more and more users and the site gets overloaded, you build smaller offload sites inside that network. You're not adding any coverage. You're not expanding the quality of the network. You're not going to build new coverage with these sites. Oftentimes, these are small sites, microcells, small cell nodes. Perfect example of a capacity offload scheme, right? So when you have all these offload sites built to bring your network more capacity, oftentimes what networks will do, the operators, they will take out that mountaintop site. They'll just take it away. Why? Because with those channels gone, those frequencies no longer in use in a giant area, you can reuse those frequencies without fear of interference when you have these smaller networks, provided you have equivalent coverage from your offload sites. So the big giant tower sites in metro areas, out in rural areas, you'll see them because you don't have the amount of users. But in downtown areas, heavily populated areas, you don't see the big mountaintop, giant tower, rooftop sites because they just cover too much. And even with all the different frequencies we have now, 5, 6, 7, 8 bands to choose from, we still can't manage that capacity demand with all the new users. I mean, millions of users, millions of devices, phones, tablets, watches, streaming devices, smart home devices. These all place incredible demands on the network. So they do the small cell offloads, they do smaller microsites, they build them within the coverage footprint of a site, and if they build enough sites, they take that site out, they just remove it. That's high site takedown kind of stuff. That's why small cells exist. Small cells don't generally add coverage to a network, they don't add quality, they add capacity. And remember, in a data network, the more capacity you have, the more bandwidth, the better your throughput. The happier your people, the faster your speeds are going to be. Everyone's happy when they can download their videos or upload their pictures quickly. And that all is a factor of the capacity. Most wireless networks today, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, and all the other carriers, most of their networks are pretty well defined. There are some areas where there's not a lot of coverage, and then they'll build a site for coverage, and that is called a quality site, as they improve the quality and the footprint of their network. So sites that provide coverage are typically known as quality sites, and sites that provide capacity offload know new coverage, new frequencies, smaller footprint. When you have a small site, a little tiny cell site, a small cell in the shadow of a giant tower with antennas radiating in all directions, This little cell site at the bottom provides specific targeted capacity for users who are within the coverage footprint of that small site. And that takes stress off of this big site and creates a better user experience for people who are using the big site out on the fringe. So it's always a balance, right? Your quality sites, your coverage sites define the area that you're covering, and the capacity sites provide you the offload, the better experience. If a site is getting just crushed with all the users, they build capacity sites, they build small cells, even DAS networks inside a building. When they're radio fed, that DAS network can take considerable stress off of the macro network. If you build an off-air DAS network, you might make a capacity problem worse, because these people can now, all these users can now connect to the macro network that they couldn't before, because the in-building coverage was so poor. It's always capacity. Today, everything is capacity, because all your phone calls, remember, you're not making a traditional phone call like you used to. It's all voice over LTE or voice over new radio, voice 4G, voice 5G. Capacity, it's all capacity. The speed, the download, the upload, it's all based upon capacity. This is your bandwidth. This is the lifeblood of networks today. That's pretty much it. Coverage is your quality sites. That's the footprint, and capacity creates new bandwidth via new frequencies or small offload sites. And when they do, effectively, they can take the big sites out. It's operationally tough to get to those big giant sites, so it's easier for the networks to maintain smaller sites. This is how they like to do it. It's pinpoint coverage. It's better for everybody. Really, really important to make sure the network has enough capacity for all the users. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Martin Hevesy, Cellular and Wireless Unmasked. If you have any questions about this topic, please go ahead and put them in the comments below. I love it when you subscribe. It helps my channel. It helps me create new videos. If you have anything you want me to cover, any topics, go ahead and also ask that in the comments, and I will tackle those in a future video. Thank you so much for watching, and have an excellent day.